Look, there's no way to sugarcoat this, because when you're going through rock bottom, and if you're watching this and you are in a really dark place, if your whole life it feels like it's at rock bottom right now, it is truly savage. It is probably one of the hardest experiences that we will ever go through. And the reason I'm shooting this video is because I'm going through it right now. I'm at rock bottom in my life. I had a business that went under in 2022, had to let my team go, tried propping it up for 18 months and ended up with over $200,000 of company and personal debt. I've had over a dozen failures over the sort of 12 months since then. So it's just constant knockbacks, 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 knockbacks. I'm now technically homeless, without an apartment, no car. I've been reached the point where debts got crushing, and then most recently had a breakup. And so the purpose of me shooting this video series is going to be a 4-part series, and it's going to document the entire process to go through this, because like I say, I've been through this before. I know how to get through it. I know how to come out the other side. And the purpose is very simply, if you're watching this and you're also in a very difficult place, maybe you're stuck in a rut and you've been there for a long time, or maybe you don't feel any hope for the future anymore, or maybe like me, you have just hit absolute rock bottom and everything has just felt like it's falling apart. These 4 videos that I'm going to shoot are designed to help. Quite simply, I'm not selling anything, I'm not charging anything. This isn't part of some new business venture that I'm doing. It is literally just, I'm going through it, this is what I'm doing, I'll share it, I hope it helps you too. That's it. So first of all, we've got to recognize that everything that we're feeling right now is not going to be forever. It is temporary. And it is when you go past that breaking point, and the tsunami of everything at once hits you, the feelings are so intense, but they do not stay that intense for that long. When you're going through the thick of it, it's very hard to remember this, but you've got to keep this in mind. It is temporary, and each day that goes past, it's not going to get easier every single day, because it comes in waves. Right? One day you feel like you're doing great, and then suddenly the next day you're in the depths of despair again. So again, recognize that it is temporary, but it's also going to go in waves. It's not going to be a straightforward, linear progression up, out into success and happiness again. Right? It's going to take some time. It's going to go like that. But also recognize that at least 80% of what you're feeling is nothing to do with the emotionally charged event that broke you. So I'm going to use the breakup as an example, purely because I think most people have experienced one. Most people can relate to it. And also because I think, I don't know, but I think a lot of the time a breakup is going to be a very common event that will cause someone to really hit rock bottom, because it is emotionally charged. And it is the thing where you can deal with the financial challenges, you can deal with, like, maybe debtors coming after you, trying to kick you out of your home, maybe you lose the car from payments, maybe you get some other bad news in your life. Like, everything's just compounding and compounding. But then the breakup, the one with the emotion, that's the one that packs the punch to be able to push you past that breaking point. So recognize that what you're feeling, 80% at least, is not to do with the breakup. All right, it's not to do with that emotionally charged event. And just having this awareness in the back of your mind can make it a lot easier to deal with, because if you're at rock bottom, you've got to take what you're feeling with a pinch of salt. And here's the clue. Okay, so if you're watching this and say you haven't gone through a breakup, for example, and you're thinking, well, how do I know that it's all the other stuff? Well, if what you're feeling is magnitudes beyond what you should be feeling for the event, that's the clue that it's not just about the event. And then third of all, do not make big life-changing decisions when you're in this emotionally fragile space of rock bottom. Right? Don't go divorcing the wife, selling the house, and moving to Bali tomorrow or whatever. Just chill. Just get through the first emotional part. Just give yourself a little bit of time to get some stability again before you start making any kind of big decisions. So this first video is going to go through obviously the first stage of how to come out of rock bottom, and that is acknowledging where you're at. It is building the foundations of this. Okay, this is the starting point, this is what we're working with. It's getting that playing field mapped out and clear, so that when we go on to the later stages, when we start to identify the vision of the future, where we want to get to. We start building a strategy and a roadmap and goals and a route to get there. And then finally, when we start building the right habits and the right daily method of operation to then execute and start making progress, it's going to give you that entire roadmap of everything you need. Okay, so that's the purpose of these 4 videos. That's why I'm doing this. As I say, I'm doing this work myself right now. I'm just sharing what I've already been doing for the last week and what I will continue to do in the hope that it helps you as well. Okay, now a couple of pointers before we go through this. There's a spreadsheet which I've designed, and anyone who knows me knows that I love a spreadsheet. You can download it for yourself. If you look in the description of this video, you'll see a link to the spreadsheet. Make sure, if you want to use it, just click on File in the top left-hand corner and then click Make a Copy. You won't be able to edit the master version. Don't request share access or edit access. Just literally go File, Make a Copy, and then you can go ahead and use it for yourself freely. And then finally, at the end of this 4-part video series, I'm going to do a sort of mind map, like a 100,000-foot overview of the entire process, so that once you're going through it and doing the work, you can see where this relates to the whole big picture. Okay, so those 2 resources are yours. If the mind map is done by the time you watch this video, which I think will be about a week's time, you'll see it in the description. If you're watching this video when it's just been uploaded, don't worry, just get the spreadsheet, just do the work in the video step by step, and you will be making massive progress towards getting out of rock bottom by the time the final video is uploaded. One final thing as well is there are, as I say, 5 steps split between 4 videos, and each step has got about 4 to 6 sub-steps. Now, if you do those sub-steps, each one's going to be roughly 30 minutes. Some will be more, some will be less. But if you commit to doing at least one of those sub-steps every single day, so that's about 30 minutes of work a day, by the end of the month, you will be actually taking action on working on the goals that are going to move you out of rock bottom. Okay, so you need to do the work, whether it's with me or yourself or somebody else. There's no way around it, because if you don't change what you're doing, you're going to keep getting what you're getting. You need to change what you're doing if you want a different result. And so for me doing the work, for you doing the work, it's the only way to do it is to do the work. So we've got to commit some time every single day to doing the work, whether it's just 30 minutes to do an exercise a day. Super important. Okay, so that's the format. That's why I'm doing this. That's where I'm at right now. If you're in the same space, I hope that this helps you as well. So let's dive into the first part of the process, the first stage, which is to acknowledge where you're at. Okay, so 1A, I'll be honest, my least favorite step. 1A is called the brain and heart dump. This is where you get a journal, right? You can handwrite it. Don't do it on a Google Doc or something. It's much more effective if you just handwrite it and you know, go sit on your own in a room somewhere. Just don't be disturbed while you're doing it. Just make sure you can focus properly. And all you're doing is you're writing down everything that you're feeling, that you're thinking, that you're struggling with to do with this rock bottom situation. Doesn't matter how depressing it is, doesn't matter how victimizing it is, doesn't matter how self-loathing it is, it doesn't matter, just whatever's in your head and whatever's in your heart, whatever you're thinking and whatever you're feeling, just write it down, get it out. This isn't going to go into your memoirs or something that anyone's ever going to read, so don't worry about that. It's just to get it out of yourself, right? Because as long as you're keeping it in here, and as I say, I hate this stuff. I really would much rather just be like, don't worry, let's just crack on, take action, focus on my goals, move forwards, But you've got to process this stuff properly, because if you don't, I can tell you from experience, when I went through this 11 years ago, it will eat you alive from the inside. It is savage, and the sooner that you can process it and deal with it and acknowledge it and just get it out, the sooner you can work through it, and it's going to not control you, not dictate your thoughts and your actions and everything that you're doing. Okay, so this first step, probably one of the most important. You've just got to process where you're at, write it all down, get it on paper, done. Okay, once that's done, we go on to something a little bit more positive, 1B, and that is where we're beginning to find gratitude for what we do have in our lives. Because you've got to remember as well that rock bottom, your rock bottom, my rock bottom, someone else's rock bottom, it's all relative. And that means that what seems awful to me might not be so bad to somebody else. And what seems awful to you, again, to me or to somebody else, I might think, well, actually, that doesn't sound too bad at all. And so we have to take a minute to find the right perspective on what we do have. We've got to see things how they are, not worse than they are. And the best way to do this is to be grateful for what we do have. So, for example, I'm fortunate enough to be able-bodied. I have all my limbs. I can walk. I can, I'm in good shape. I'm healthy. These are all things that I can be very grateful for. I'm also not homeless. I mean, I don't have a home at the moment. I've had to get rid of my apartment, but I have plenty of places that I can go, friends, family, relatives, etc., where I will be able to have a roof over my head. I'm not going to be sleeping under a bridge. And even if you are, if you're watching this and things are really tough, there's going to be things that we can find that we can be grateful for. And we've got to recognize as well that no matter how hard the situation that we're in, there's other people that have been in that same situation and have managed to get out of it. And if they've done it, it means it's possible. And if it's possible, you can do it. So gratitude is the gateway to start to see what we do have. And from there, we can start to look at solutions through a much more positive and a much more realistic lens, instead of having the tinted glasses on where we see everything, through how we're feeling. Because obviously, if you're at rock bottom, I know this, I'm feeling it right now, it's very hard to think clearly. It's very hard to think rationally. It's very hard to think positively. So you've really got to give yourself the best chance to get in the right frame of mind before doing this work, if you're going to start seeing good progress. Okay, so 1B, gratitude for what you do have. Now write down at least 10 things, ideally more than 20 things that you can be grateful for. Once you've done that, you can move on to the next step, which is 1C, the objective overview of the situation. Now I'm gonna actually slide across and jump on the laptop so you can see the screen here. I'm going to dive into the spreadsheet. Here we are, and what we're going to go through is the it's actually 1C and 1D rolled into one. But it's the objective overview of the situation, designed to put all the puzzle pieces that we're playing with in one place. Okay, so we know, what assets do we have at our disposal. It doesn't just have to be financial assets. There's going to be other assets as well. So, for example, one asset I have is I can come to mum's for a couple of weeks and not sleep on the street, while I sort out a place in London, for example. Other things as well is your income and expenses. So this is actually 1D. It's your objective assessment of what's your income at the moment and what your expenses at the moment. So in other words, what are we playing with? How much disposable cash do we have each month? Are we losing cash each month? And this is going to give us the understanding of, when we get to the goal setting stage, what exactly do we need to do to start digging ourselves out of this situation? So saying things like, I need to earn more money, that's not specific enough. It's not trackable enough. It's not tangible enough to be able to actually know if you're moving forwards and taking action and making progress. So you need to understand where you're at exactly, so that you can start to build a strategy to get you from where you're at to where you want to get to. Okay, so we're going to take some time here. We're going to fill in this spreadsheet. You're going to write down your current income sources, your current expenses, current financial resources. So this could be any savings you've got squirreled away, or stock portfolios, or credit lines as well. So you might have a potential 10k credit line on a credit card, or maybe you've been pre-approved for a 20k loan if your worst came to worst and you needed it. I'm not suggesting, by the way, to run out and go and finance yourself up to the hilt right now. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying, list all of the potential strings to your bow that you can think of as ways, or things that you could do, things you could turn to if you needed it. I've even put on things like, for example, this one that I'm highlighting now, Avios Air Miles. So I do have a bunch of Avios points from my old company credit card. I think it's like nearly 500,000 in there, and I found out they're actually worth something. So if I needed to, I could sell my Avios points to raise some cash. So even think like that. Do you have family heirlooms in the attic? Do you have old camera equipment that you never use that you could sell the lenses on eBay and raise a few £100? Or, just start to try and think outside the box. What assets do you have? What could you lean to? What could you turn to? How could you start to give yourself a bit of breathing room if you are in a difficult financial situation? And then finally, same thing with financial liabilities. So this is where you're getting on paper or on spreadsheet what are the liabilities that you need to resolve in your life. So credit card debts, loans, car loans, mortgages, debts to family, just whatever it is, get that down here so we know what we're working with. And again, other challenges and considerations. So this could be things like you have to spend X amount of hours per week doing something to, I don't know, help a family member. I'm just sort of making stuff up, but just anything that is a challenge or a consideration for you that you need to be aware of, that's part of your playing field that you're dealing with right now. Again, just get it down. So we have this starting point. Now, the next stage is 1E, which is the objective time overview. And by the way, the word objective, this is very important for both 1C, D, and E. We are seeing things as they are, not worse than they are. And we are not putting our own opinion into our assessment. So that means don't write down, I have a huge $200,000 debt that I can't repay. That's not objective, that's subjective, because your huge is only huge to you. It might not be huge to someone else. Or that you can't repay is putting your opinion on the matter. You can repay it, other people can repay it, it can be done. So the point is that with this whole part of the process, 1C, 1D, and 1E, we have to be factual. We have to just say, I have a $200,000 debt, if that's what it is. Or I have 5 hours free per week. Not, I don't have enough time free per week. Be like, I have 5 hours free per week. Okay, so objective, factual, not subjective. Don't put your opinions or assessments into it. Okay, it's very important. But this step, the time overview, this is where you're going to write down what is it you're doing with your time throughout the whole week. Now, you can get really deep with this and actually plot it live if you wanted to. I have done that before. I'm going to say for in the interests of using your time as wisely as possible right now, let's maybe not do it live, but just write down what do you do throughout each of these days, each week, at what times. And the idea is to find how much free time that you generally have each week. What are we working with here? Because when we start putting these goals and these plans and these strategies in place, we need to know, are we actually going to be able to execute on the things that we need to do in the time that we have? Because if you have a goal that's going to take you 20 hours a week to accomplish, and you only have 4 hours free per week, so you won't be able to do the things you need to do, it's not going to line up. So again, we need to know how much time are we playing with each week? What are we working with? And from there, that's going to allow us to accurately fill in the strategies, the goals, the actions that we need to take to move us to where we want to get to. Okay, and once you've done that, once we have the objective overview and we know where we're at, the puzzle pieces we're playing with, what we're working with, the final stage of part 1, acknowledging where we are, is to acknowledge how we got here. And again, be objective, but be honest. So these are going to be the things that you've done that have led to this point, the things you haven't done that have led to this point, habits that you need to change which have led you to this point, financial decisions that you've made which need to be altered that have led you to this point. So if we can't acknowledge how we got here, it's going to be a lot trickier to know what is it that we actually need to change if we want to create a different result in the future. Okay, so be objective, but be honest. Don't start beating yourself up. Don't start making yourself wrong. Don't start scolding yourself for everything you've done. What's done is done. That's not going to solve anything. All we're doing here is saying, okay, this is what I've done. That has created that result. So therefore, I want a different result. I need to change what I've done. And not change what I've done, but change what I do from here on out. Can't change the past. You know what I mean? Okay, so objective, honest, acknowledge what you have done that has led you to this point, and that is going to give you the baseline of recognizing what needs to change if we're going to create a different result in the future. All right, that's stage 1F. Once you've completed that, that is part 1 done. We have acknowledged where we are. We know the playing field we're working with. And from that foundation, we're now able to start creating an idea, a vision for the future that we want to move towards. And then from there, we can begin to build a strategy and then set goals that is going to enable us to start making steps towards that future. So look forward to seeing you in part 2, the next video. This is where we're going to get into the more positive, visionary stuff. We're going to start getting an idea of where we want to get to. Do hit subscribe so that you get a notification for the next video, and I will see you there within 24 to 48 hours. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.